Greg Norman has one of the strangest legacies in golf. In his prime, he was one of the sport's main characters. And now, when players bring him up, the conversation goes either of two ways: an icon or a divisive figure. And first, you have to understand how big Norman was during his prime. For a long stretch, he wasn't just a top player. He was the guy people showed up to see. He had the swagger, the shark logo, the whole vibe that made golf feel larger. Jesper Parnevik basically says it outright. Norman had a Tiger Woods-level draw for the PGA Tour for a long time.
He was Tiger Woods, if you want to call it that, for the PGA Tour for a very, very long time. I mean, he got the TV and the crowds going, and I mean, he's still a huge crowd puller to any event he goes to, and that says a lot about a player.
In Australia, people talk about Norman like he sparked a boom, like he showed a country that golf could be exciting. Here's Ian Baker Finch saying Norman made the game feel fun and electric.
Greg was really the start of the boom in golf in Australia. He really got people thinking that, hey, this is exciting, this is fun, you know, there's athletes playing this game. He was always the guy that people were trying to emulate.
And Adam Scott gives you the modern Aussie perspective. When he reaches milestones that Norman reached, it feels like a real accomplishment to him.
I feel like any time that I achieve anything that Greg Norman's done in his golfing career, then I've done well. And whether it's winning tournaments back in Australia that he won, winning tournaments around the world that he's won, or getting to #1, it's a great feeling. It's childhood dreams coming true, really.
Now, people didn't just respect Norman because he hit it good. They respected him because he was willing to take a stand. He wasn't always trying to be liked. He was trying to be honest. Johnny Miller says that's part of why people loved and respected him.
He has a great magnetism about him, the way he carries himself, and people are attracted to him, and they're attracted to the fact that he's willing to take a stand and say what he believes, and he's an honest guy, and he goes for the gusto, so to speak. All in all, you have to respect his game. He was the best of his time.
That trait becomes important later because it's part of why the whole LIV chapter hit so hard. We'll come back to that. But first, let's hear what Nick Faldo had to say about Greg Norman's historic collapse in the 1996 Masters.
Looking up level with the giant scoreboard there, and you know, you look and you kind of do your maths. Well, there's me, there's Greg, there's Phil, and it's like, wow, you've done it. That ain't gonna change. There was an atmosphere in the air because people had just seen what had happened to Greg. I felt for the guy. I mean, Greg was a heck of a golfer. I said, I don't know what to say, mate. I just want to give you a hug. So that was really it. You know, what I find amazing is people come up to me and go, oh, yeah, you, Greg, 96 Masters. If I said, what year did I win an Open? And I go, 82 at Birkdale.
Now here's a really interesting angle from someone who saw two very different players up close. Steve Williams caddied for both Tiger Woods and Greg Norman. And he says the big difference wasn't confidence or work ethic, it was something else.
They're two very, very aggressive players, two very, very confident players, two guys that worked extremely hard, and two guys that had complete faith in what they did. The biggest difference was Greg could get very upset and very angry, as did Tiger, but Tiger could shake it off straight away. Greg, he might shake it off 1 hole later, 9 holes later, 1 day later, 1 week later, 1 month later. A very poor, a very difficult happening or something that didn't go his way, and that it took him a while to shake it off. And that was his only downfall. Who knows? He's a fantastic player. He's an icon. He's won a lot of tournaments, but who knows how many majors if he could have won if he had a slightly different mental attitude.
That's a real insight. And it explains how a player can be that gifted, that famous, that dominant, and still end up defined by a few painful days. Now we get to the version of Greg Norman that creates the most arguments, the LIV era. To some, Greg is the guy who had the vision and the guts to blow up the old system. Phil Mickelson gives him full credit for that, says he respects Norman for the courage to innovate and launch LIV Golf.
Time with Greg has been incredible. I have the utmost respect for him, and Greg was the one that many years ago had the vision of what could be for professional golf, where it needed to evolve to. He was innovative. Like he saw an opportunity to grow the game, to increase the excitement in the game, and he was willing to go out on a limb and take the hits that is required when you start making change like this. And he was the one that got this thing started and got this thing rolling and got it accepted throughout the world and moved throughout the world, and everybody on LIV is so appreciative to him for getting it started.
But others see it the opposite way, that he's become part of what's keeping the sport stuck in a Cold War. Even Jack Nicklaus, who calls Greg an icon and a friend, says they don't see eye to eye on the current situation.
Norman's an icon in the game of golf. Okay? He's a great player. We've been friends for a long time. And regardless of what happens, he's going to remain a friend. And but unfortunately, he and I just don't see eye to eye in what's going on. I'll basically leave it at that.
And then you get the most blunt responses from some players, them saying that if golf wants peace, Greg can't be the guy in the middle of it. Rory McIlroy says it directly. He thinks Norman needs to leave his role at LIV and that golf needs an adult in the room to get productive talks going.
There's a few things that I would like to see on the LIV side that needs to happen. I think Greg needs to go. I think he needs to just exit stage left, and look, he's made his mark, but I think now is the right time to sort of say, look, you've got this thing off the ground, but no one's going to talk unless there's an adult in the room that can actually try to mend fence.
And Tiger echoes that same idea.
There's no willingness to negotiate if you have a litigation against you. So if they both have a stay and then have a break and then they can meet and figure something out, then maybe there is something to be had. But I think Greg has to go.
Now, whether you agree with them or not, the point is clear. They're not talking about his game anymore. They're talking about him as a symbol, as a personality, in the middle of the biggest fight golf has had in decades. And if you want the harshest version of that viewpoint, it comes from Tiger. He says Norman has taken actions that aren't in the best interest of golf, and he backs the decision not to invite him to the Open.
Has done some things that I don't think that's in the best interest, of our game, and we're coming back to probably the most historic and traditional place in our sport, and I believe it was the right thing.
That's about as direct as it gets. And that's why Greg Norman is such a complicated name now. He still has enormous respect attached to his playing career, but the modern conversation is about consequences. So when players are asked about Greg Norman, you hear two versions of the same person. The first is the icon, the guy who made golf feel bigger, pulled crowds, and inspired a generation. The second is the divisive figure, the guy at the center of a fight that's still reshaping the sport. And that's the Norman legacy, a Hall of Fame career, and a modern chapter people still can't agree on.